You guys see that good-looking guy in there? That was my suit back then. This continuum represents, to some degree, a difference between a time period where a person may be acting out or not acting out. And if you see that the continuum has basically bipolar ends on here that are the exact opposite of the other. That line in the center represents the moment in time that you transition from one side to the other. And so that transition can happen either going from acting out, the using part, over to not acting out or not using, or vice versa. Okay? What we hope to achieve here is to start to understand a person's view of self, both in the times of change or the attempts at change, and in the times of not changing, or in the times of no interest in really doing anything different. We're not stopping any behaviors at this point. We're going to continue to violate. We're going to continue to use drugs or alcohol. We're going to continue to act out in some negative way, as opposed to not. My first question to you, and I just want you to think of this, remember I run this activity in groups, I run this in our one-on-one sessions that I do as a mental health therapist, as an AODA counselor, as an outreach worker. This is an intervention that I use, and it's very casual. It's a very casual conversation. So I'll ask somebody, is not using the same as recovery? Now, if you think it is, or you think it isn't, so first question is, if you think it is roughly about the same in some kind of way, strange way, then just by a show of hands, put your hands up in the air. This is your IQ test to make sure you're paying attention. So 2 people are paying attention. Let's try this again. Is not using the same thing as recovery? Show of hands. Yes? Yes? All right, so I got 4 people now. Okay then, is not acting out, is somebody who's not violating or committing crimes, is that the same thing as change? Yes? Take a chance, Pete. Don't be scared. There's no right or wrong answers. The majority of the people that we interview with this say, yeah, it is. It pretty much is. And I even ran my wife, who doesn't have a criminal bone in her body. She said, yeah. She kind of responded, yeah, it is the same. Yeah, that's what I would say. You know, she knows me, so she knows I'm up to something, just like you do, which is why I'm only 4 that are voting right now. Just go with it. Just go with it, right? So for the most part, what we hear from these people is, yes, those things are the same. Now, on the other end of that is using the same as relapse. So I'm asking the group at this point, or this individual, is using the same thing as relapse? If you say yes, put your hands up. Take a chance. Okay, there we go, waking up a little bit. Most of the group says, yes, it is. It's the same thing as relapse. In fact, I often hear this in my groups or my sessions when people come in and say, Sammy, I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, I used. So, okay, well, tell me about that. Well, it happened so fast. It almost caught them by surprise. It was an instantaneous event that occurred. So keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. Now, is acting out, do you actually have to act out in some way? Do you have to, commit a crime? Do you have to be violent or aggressive or intimidating? Do you have to have any regression, actually, any physical regression to actually violate? So that one's a little more complex, but most of us would say, I violated because of my behavior. Now, if you notice along the bottom, I've put the continuum on each slide so that you can see visually where we're at when we talk about this. This view of me, and if you notice on the other side, not me, it came up routinely in my interviews when I would ask about the behaviors that occur. What are you like when you're not using? What are you like when you're not committing crimes? What is your personality like? What are your decisions like? How do you handle your obligations? How do you manage your life? All those things that are in it. And this is typically the responses that we get, which makes sense. If I'm not using and I'm not committing crimes, this is who I am. Take a look at it, because it's crucial that you see this. This is an integral part. This is one of the cornerstones of what we're trying to determine here. Anybody want to take a guess what that looks like? What is it? Does it all look a little good to you? Does it look a little strange to you? How many of you are like this? Only like this. See, nobody. Law enforcement, get them. Got all the bad guys in here right now. But then when we pursue that questioning to the other side of this continuum, so tell me what you're like when you're using. Tell me what you're like when you're acting out, when you're out there gangbanging, or you're out there robbing people, or whatever it is that you do. And this is typically the response that we get. Well, the reason there is a not me on there is because most of the time when these women and men and young people are explaining themselves to me, they'll often say, literally, that's not me. That's not who I am. I'm guilty of that statement as well. And whether it's alcohol and drug induced, babe, that's not me. I never would have slept with the babe if it was the alcohol. Babe. And she's like, okay. You know it's true. I'm sorry, you know it's true. Trying to be politically correct today. But I can't always do. And so this is really where I started to notice that there was some type of dissociation between who I am when I like myself and who I am not when I don't like myself. And so in the end, this is the picture that we get. Now I want you to imagine this being in your mind, that these are the thoughts that you have in your mind, and you have that clear dividing line, that clear picture of who you are and who you are not. So at this point, I would often ask, well, which one of these two people do you want to leave here as? Do you want to leave here as the me or the not me? By a show of hands, how many of you would, if this was you, if you were this person, who would want to leave here as the me? Okay, remember that. If I was a betting man and I had any money left after 4 kids, wife, 2 dogs, I would bet, put some money on that at some point. So then I begin a gentle form of confrontation here. We've got all this material to work with. And I would have started this activity after the young man came in and disclosed why he didn't hit this guy. Why didn't I knock this guy out like I would have in the past, right? And so I'll ask, well, if this isn't you, then who is it? Well, it's not me. Well, then I get on the phone and I need to call some people down here because we got the wrong guy. Why am I interviewing you? I've got protesters. I got my guy right here, Life After Hate founder. He can come out with a sign, free Sammy. It's not him. That causes some conflicts right there, some cognitive conflicts, because they'll say, well, it's me, but not really. That's the compromise. Well, there's the confrontation. So we've kind of got them confronting some inconsistencies in the way that they perceive themselves, in the way that they make conclusions about themselves.